And the Lord said,
Brewheads! What's up, everybody? I'm Big Mike.
And I am Brando.
And this is Brewheads.
You damn right.
So today we are at Tox Brewing in New London, Connecticut.
Hanging out with Dane and Mike.
Yeah.
Actually, I was looking through your actual webpage, and you guys played at the Hurricane Katrina thing? The relief?
Did we play it?
We played at one, and it was local. It was New London or East Lyme or something. We were been playing in bands together for most of our
You guys grew up.
adolescent and adult
Yeah.
life, and we did play at one for sure.
That was cool. That was just like neat to see, like a throwback from like something I remembered.
Yeah, well, that's, I guess, a testament to how long we've been,
Yeah.
known each other and playing music. I mean, that was middle of high school or
Got a
something.
lot of throwbacks. There's a picture in here of us at our preschool graduation.
Wow.
Yeah.
4 years old, something like that.
So that section of the webpage is just talking about our history and how long we've known each other. So yeah, I mean, his mom found a picture of us at preschool graduation together. We've been really close since like middle school, kind of 5th, 6th, 7th grade. And ever since then.
It turned into like a beer hobby, and then it was just
Yeah, so there was a point where we were all playing in bands together with another co-founder who's still involved with the business.
Yep.
His name's John. We were all in a band together, and band practices and set breaks at shows. We would just talk about beer, craft beer. John and Dane were certainly further ahead of me in the home brewing game at that point. And then there was a time where
You all right there?
our beer has that effect sometimes.
You about to die?
there was like a little heat with it, and I breathed it in.
I didn't put that ghost pepper in there.
What is that?
Oh, this triple dark.
Oh, triple A. Yeah, so, and then we just started bonding over beer as much as music, and then one day we just decided to go for it. So
Yeah.
all home brewing on our own and together.
Yep.
Sat down and wrote a business plan, and the rest is brief, but still history.
So when did you guys open?
2019. So we're
19.
2 years,
Two and change.
few months in.
And still going through a
Early April
a hell of a
2019.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah, at this
Yeah.
point, most of the time we've been open has been during a pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously highs and lows, but, we would always have these catastrophe, like pessimistic mindsets when we don't come from entrepreneurs. Opening a business was a scary thing. And
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
like, what if this happens? And sure enough,
Yeah.
it's been real testament of our, ability to be able to adapt and kind of roll with it. Change our business model overnight several times.
Actually, for the amount of breweries that's actually opened in this amount of time, one has surprised me, but two, also, it's probably one of the, I would say, best times, because it, right off the bat, this is like, you're going to find out how, like,
If you're going to
if you're going to succeed or not
Yeah.
with this business, because this is the toughest time. To actually have a brewery like this is probably because more so it's personal, and when you can't have people coming in droves, it's one of those things where it's like, wow, it's got to be scary as a business owner to just be like,
It
wow,
was. I mean,
how are we going to succeed in this?
So we're not business people, right? I'm a scientist, and Mike has a background in a bunch of different things. He's a multi-talented
sitting in a
man.
cubicle,
He's-
just
Yeah.
But this was not our arena, and so we had to figure it out on our own.
Yeah.
And before we opened, we made all these different projections of, okay, like what's a best case scenario, what's a probably expected scenario, what's a worst case scenario.
Right.
And when pandemic hit, and most of our sales, most of our revenue relied on taproom.
Yeah.
We had to rethink everything from the ground up in a matter of a couple of weeks or months.
most of our business was centered around our tap room.
Yeah.
We have 12 feet of bar that all the money that drives our business, keeps the lights on, is transacted across that bar.
Yeah.
Luckily, we got a canning line 2 months before the pandemic. So that was just like a coincidence. But yeah, to be able to adapt overnight, like website pre-order, curbside pickup, across from you guys, to my left, there's a nice one-way parking lot that was convenient for like a drive-through pickup model. You know, open the trunk, ID through the window. So we've seen it all. We've had mandatory closures, voluntary closures. adapting, like, well, do we do growler fills, crowler fills, both when we're canning, and then navigating distancing of the tables, and just all, it was really trying. I mean, we were never like really in trouble. We weren't in the black every month, but we never had to like lay anyone off, or we were never like in super dangerous waters, but it was definitely trying. And I mean, since we reopened in February, we've been as busy as we can be, which is great. So
when you guys were able to reopen and have people like in the brewery again, how like was it just like one of those finally we're kind of getting some symbol of normalcy? Just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
you didn't really have a taste of it too much before, right?
So that's the thing is, we had there was never a time where we were able to can our beer outside of a pandemic. So we don't know like without those factors, pressures, like what does our typical business look like?
Okay.
Because it was adapting naturally at the same time as the pandemic happened. So like
we didn't even have a full year. The pandemic hit at month 10 of us being open.
Yeah.
And the first few months of any business opening, it's not really indicative of what those months are.
Yeah.
So we didn't even know what baseline was supposed to be.
We couldn't compare before and after because we had changed naturally and grown through collaborations and doing stuff at 12% Beer Project and some, just equipment and scaling growth, like all those things. So we don't really know how to compare it to what life would have been like pre-pandemic because we changed so much outside of those pressures. So as far like I don't really know what normal is, and the whole world, feels like a different kind of normal since pandemic. But we had a voluntary closure through like that second wave because you've seen our tap room. It's so small,
smaller,
spacing everything 6 feet out.
Yeah.
And it's too cold to really be comfortable outside, so we're like, let's just go curbside from like Thanksgiving until February. And through that time, we really got dialed in with our canning line. We filled a couple bourbon barrels. Like we did some stuff we've been needing to do anyway. And then we reopened this past February, and we've been super busy. And, still taking precautions, still offering a curbside model, still encouraging mask wearing and stuff like that. And I mean, I'm proud of how we were able to handle everything. And it's very humbling, and just a gratitude component too, like seeing how amazing it is that through these times that our loyal customers still drive up every day and buy beer. It's like there's no business outside of my own I feel this passionately about to support this way. So it inspires you to go support other small businesses.
So how much, when you guys switch from home brewing to becoming a bona fide brewery, the scaling, how difficult was it? Was it like some beers were like, oh, this is easy, and then other beers was like, what the fuck just happened?
Kind of.
Dude, it's exactly that. You can't just, if you're making 30 times the amount, you can't just multiply all the ingredients.
By 30,
It's complete. Each one has a different scaling, and you don't know till you try. And so there is some trial and error there, but you learn from each one, and that's what when you're home brewing, you brew a batch of beer, and you don't really know what the result is until a month later. So your learning curve is pretty slow because you got to keep experimenting, try a new variable, wait another month, and that's a lot of beer to drink by yourself and your family. So it really, so it was slower. But here, we got so much better, so much faster because we're doing so much more and keeping close tabs on exactly the variables that we changed. And so over time, we're even for a single label beer, we would tweak it and make it better and better. So if we had, and I don't think we do, but if we had a vintage can of Dart Frog from a year ago compared to Dart Frog today, it would be different. But
tinkering,
That,
like you said, the scaling, and it's not only that, just scale. It doesn't scale. Nothing scales linearly this way, but also like the system too. Like, we have a very space and budget saving system that very manual, but getting the kinks worked out of that, the efficiencies and the amount of this, that was also a learning curve and still is. And you say some beers are a little easier, simple Marzen, Oktoberfest style Marzen might be a little easier than something like a triple Dart, where there's a reason it took us 2.5 years to do a triple IPA on our system, because I was still largely unhappy with how our double IPAs were turning out, and the nature of our system, it's very manual. To get anything over 7.5% is a very, 2 mashes, a very long brew day. So, really getting comfortable with some of our bigger beers before trying to execute something like that.
Yeah.
You know, but like
well done, by the way. This is
thank you. Yeah. It's all New Zealand hopped, and
Yeah.
finding that balance between sweetness and too boozy is a
Yep.
challenge. It's a little on the sweeter side, but I
Yep.
think I'd prefer that to being too harsh and
Yeah.
boozy.
Yeah.
You know, it's around 9.5%. Finishing gravity is a little higher than we hoped, but it came out really well, and I think the New Zealand hop profile in there is
especially like
really interesting flavor.
the amount of like just candy aroma that comes off it from the what is it? You got Nelson,
Yeah, it's Nelson,
Rakautra, and Motueka.
Rakau and Matuika,
Okay.
Matuka, however you
Yep.
say it. Yeah, those are the 3 hops, mostly Nelson Sauvin.
Is that an African American stripper?
Yeah, that was Clinton's comment.
Clinton said we had a beer with Motueka.
an African American stripper. Like, oh God.
We way overbought Nelson Sauvin hops in 2019, so we had a lot of crop. We needed to move up.
Nice.
We had a lot of Nelson
Yeah.
Sauvin beers, and we're finally through that. But you know, a lot of our flagships at this point are.
That was one of our earliest blunders. What in the business world was adding an accidental extra zero onto a number of boxes.
I've done that.
Yeah, I thought we were buying 44 pounds. We bought 440 pounds. So we got 10 boxes instead of
Yeah.
one.
I've made that mistake.
It was a great crop, though.
Doing
so
orders.
Yeah.
And Nelson Sauvin is typically, if you don't have contracts, it's a harder hop
Yeah.
to find.
Yeah, it is.
Buying it on spot hops from random vendors. So there was a comfort in knowing we had a good crop and we had a lot of it. We got ourselves a big freezer and we had everything sealed well.
Mm-hmm.
So never spoiled, which was nice. We were able
Yep.
to use it all, but yeah, so that was funny. It was like the way the invoice or the order confirmation was structured. It was like kind of odd to read, like the display. And
Yeah.
I thought I was buying 44 pounds, but.
Oh shit.
Like, wow, that's kind of expensive. It's way more expensive than I thought it would be. So with doing the collabs with 12% and all that stuff,
Yeah.
how fun is that stuff? Because it just seems like doing collabs is always a
Yeah, like
fun
is that
way
a
to-
party day or is it a work day? Is it a both?
Both.
Yeah, so we've been talking to 12% like for a year before we actually did anything there, and we did a collab with Abomination,
Yeah.
which was
Yes.
a fun way to test the water.
Toxic Earth.
That was
Holy shit,
Interesting.
we
Big
we,
sweet matcha beer.
we had that, and it was like we looked at it, was like, how?
fucking green.
It was just like, how? It's like, this looks like Swamp Thing's
Yeah,
piss.
not even
How?
like a cool neon green. It was like baby puke.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah.
you know.
And it was so good. Oh
But
my
hey, if
God.
you're gonna collab, you might as well go wacky with it.
Yeah.
To those guys' credit, it was mostly their idea, that beer. I mean, we helped with the recipe, but they had the idea of doing a matcha beer. And
Yeah.
So that was cool. I mean, Alex from 12% came into the tap room a few times when Dayne was working, and what an opportunity. I mean, the operation there and how well they execute everything. It's just,
Yeah.
you know.
Here's the thing. I mean, for them, it's not just a regular contract, and it's not just a wing it, like, oh, we got the recipe, whatever, it's close
Yeah.
enough. These guys are dialing down to like the recreating what the water is like here to
Oh,
make
wow.
it similar.
Similar,
on the system.
yeah.
We're talking trace electrolytes and things like that we're able to dial in. So
That's serious.
and we were very clear that we wanted it to be a Tox beer, through and through.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we've been so happy with the way that they.
It's been great. So I was very on the fence in the beginning, more so than Dayne. I mean, I'm like, well, I'm never interested in the contracting thing, and there's a stewardship in this. We want to
Yeah.
put our name on something that we're crafting, but they have a different business model. Like, they're an actual distributor.
Yeah.
So what they're making there, it's in their interest to execute as well as possible,
Yeah.
because they're the ones who have to distribute and sell it, and while it's our beer. So, it's been really great because not everyone can brew there, and asked to be part of that, collective has
Yeah,
been really
it's-
great, and
yeah.
they've executed everything so well. We can obviously go on brew days if we want, but at this point, it would be, for me, it's like if I'm standing at that brew system, it would be like trying to fly a space shuttle when I'm used to a
usually,
Cessna
yeah.
or a puddle hopper. It's just compared to our system. So most of the time, my time is better spent here brewing, because Chase and Zach and Sean and I think Carla and all the people that brew there are just so talented. And like you said, down to every detail of the water chemistry, recreating the crazy fruit combinations and whirlpool hops that we do.
Yeah.
You've just done such a good job that it's been a real pleasure. And the stuff that's difficult to brew here, like those higher ABV beers, it's really nice to be able to brew down there.
What an example, this beer. So, I mean, like, to be clear, this is like an engineering feat for us to pull off here, just because of the limitations of the size of the system.
Yeah.
Whereas a brew system like 12% has or other big brewers would have, they could bang this out in an afternoon.
Yeah.
For us, this took Mike 2 13-hour days back there, manually doing this stuff. More hops than we've ever used in a beer. I mean, the
nature of our
steps
system.
we have to do.
Gotcha, yeah.
So
to
in
be
order
able
to
pull it
mash
off.
something twice, we have a single vessel. Most breweries are 3 or 4. We have one vessel that has it's a big brew in a bag system. So we have a grain basket we mash in, we lift the grain out, we sparge over, fly sparge.
Right.
And then we have to empty that grain out and then grain in again with the wort that's already in there. So we can't start boiling while we're doing our second mash. So it's like, we start at 6 a.m. We walk out of here around 7 p.m. on those days. We have electric heating elements and the cleaning on the. Long story short,
Everything's linear.
Big fancy pants brew houses say, oh, well, high ABV beer. It's not that big a deal. It's just more grain and
So we use a little more space in our mash tun than normal.
Yeah, right. And they have rakes and plows on an auger in there that stir everything in.
Yeah.
That's a great, way to look at it. It's you can't stagger. Like if you're doing Thanksgiving dinner, you have 4 burners on your stove. You can start making this while you're doing this.
Yeah.
We can't do. And at a large brewery, you can stagger parts of the brew process where you can start one thing while you're doing another thing.
Right.
For us, everything has to be done sequentially. There's no overlap because of limitations.
Tox, where did you come up with the name
That's a
Tox?
good question.
Yeah.
So naming beers sucks. It's one of the worst parts of the. We didn't want to fall in the trap of naming our beer. Like, you have these corny brew pub names where it's like a sentence or, you're basing it off of some pun or some intellectual property.
Yeah.
We don't have a hop pun in the name of any of our beers. So Dane happens to be a toxicologist for a living. And he can tell you about his job. Like, what is it?
Like, you still do that?
I still do that.
Oh, wow.
Very much so. He still has his full-time career outside of all the late nights he spends with.
Yeah,
So to be
that's
clear,
a long day.
It is. It was a lot longer before. But there was a time both Mike and I had our own careers and full-time jobs when we started this place. We went in 50-50, and the whole idea was we're going to build this place together, and when it's finally up and running, Mike will leave his job and he'll be our first full-time employee. And it's worked out that way. I was never planning to leave my career, and I do this nights and weekends and all the other times that I'm not.
Right.
I was rotting in a cubicle most days on Excel, just doing supply chain stuff.
Office space.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, the company was great. Nothing bad to say about them. But, my career wasn't as important or as lucrative, or I didn't go to school for a decade to work towards it. You know what I mean? I went to college, but so I was the obvious move, and I was really passionate about being involved with the beer and stuff. So it was a natural transition. I would, take a huge pay cut and just to get us going, and just do this full time. And Dane would put in all the hours on nights and weekends. So he, in addition to his crazy day job, he puts in so much time, just volunteers time to the heroic stuff that no one cares about, like tax audits and payroll and paying bills and finances and meeting with the accountant and all that stuff. So, there's been a division of labor like that where I do the stuff where someone actually physically has to be here. So I'm brewing the beer. For a while I was overseeing the retail operation and production,
Every once in a
packaging.
while, I brewed this one.
Yes.
This is why it tastes so bad.
I missed my first brew day since my son was born 2 years ago. More than 2 years ago. Dane and Zach, who, shout out to Zach, he brews every beer with me.
Yep.
He's our canning line guru at this point. He's involved with all the canning and brewing. I do most of the ancillary cellar work, but he's back there almost full time with me. So I went to Cape Cod a few weeks ago, and these two guys brewed our Munich Helles without me here, and did a good job. They also canned a beer without me, and it's nice. It's nice to go away with my family for once, but
So
it was
the whole
great.
idea was Tox.
Yeah,
So
Tox.
my background is I'm a pharmacist, and my day job is that I teach at a university and I practice in a hospital seeing poison patients.
Okay.
So treating people who've been poisoned by one thing or another. And I study poisons, and it's been on my mind every day for a decade.
Yeah.
So that's my thing.
Yeah.
And so when we were homebrewers, naming beers, we would just kind of, I would have a poison on my mind because it was the thing I was reading about or whatever, and we would just name it that. And it kind of stuck. Like,
Yeah.
We used to be talking about foraging for mushrooms or all these poisons that occur in nature, and like these plants, these poisonous flowers and mushrooms, and he would just talk about them and always be thinking about them. And a lot of them had really cool names, like street names, So
Street name.
like
angel dust.
Just names. Angel wings, for instance, is just a mushroom, or passion flowers. So it's like these were just cool words that even if you don't know what they are, it's a cool.
Yeah.
Nightshade and belladonna and monkshood and we've got angel's trumpet.
Hellebore. I mean, this is a flower that grows in Europe. It's native to Germany, and it's got poisonous properties, and it's called hellebore. I mean, how perfect for a
Hellelager.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, there's been so many of these things where it's like, it's just a great name for a beer, and it's an obvious pairing, and
we've had some where it kind of pushed a limit, and we said, that goes a step too far. And funny enough, so when we first started, we were a brew pub kind of business model, right?
Yeah.
Everything, we would make it here and sell it here. We didn't have to go to the government to get labels approved. But once we started canning, we did. We actually have to get them approved. And there's a person who has to read the label and verify it, and they can accept it or reject it.
Yeah.
And we've had a number of, they're actually kind of funny to us now, but we've had a number of run-ins with the government where they'll reject a beer on the grounds, on certain grounds, because we pushed the limit a little bit too much. So actually, this beer, I guess we don't need to go into too many details about this one. This one was rejected, I think, twice for some of the wording we had. But one of the funny things, one of the first ones that was rejected is a beer that we had called Detox, which was a Pilsner, and thought it would be funny. All these beers are toxin named.
Sounds like a palate scraper.
Yeah.
palate scraper.
We're like, let's call this one Detox, and they rejected it because they said it implied therapeutic properties.
Yeah, we're implying a medicinal component, or
we've literally named beers after the most deadly poisons known to man. No problem.
Yes.
This is a problem. So okay, fine. So we renamed that one after a poisonous plant of all things, and now it's sold as.
You seem less concerned about naming something after poison than something
Right.
medicinal.
Or how do you
passion
get
flower
2020 out?
There are people that claim.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Well, I think the logic of that is you have to be 21 to buy a beer, so you don't have delicate ears at that point.
I mean, granted, if 2020, I don't care. You should,
Shout out to Abomination. Those guys are awesome, and I'm glad they pulled that off.
Yeah,
it's
because
really awesome.
It fits so
Everyone
well.
needed that beer
Yeah,
too. It's
it
off
fits.
2020.
Yeah, it fits so well.
But like passion flower is an example. If there are these vines, these passion fruit plants that decorate our beer garden, and they have these cool flowers. Dane's gonna pick one there.
Yeah.
They gave us a problem with this because we're implying that there's passion flowers in the beer, which people claim medicinal. There's anti-anxiety or sleep aid components to these flowers. I don't know. Didn't you say like American Indians used to make tea out of it or something? There's
great
folklore
history,
around it and stuff. But they had more of a problem with that because it claims a medicinal component to a beer rather than, you call something rue or hellebore or it's like. Those are like beer. I mean, alcohol is poison in itself, so maybe they don't care as much about that.
Right.
The question that came up to us is, as we started getting some of these rejections, we'd name a beer like Amanita. We had one named, and they said no because it implies that and it's a type of mushroom, the classic red one with the white spots.
Oh, okay,
The Mario mushroom.
Yeah.
That's an Amanita.
So it's called Amanita muscaria, and they said, this consumers might think that there's Amanitas in the beer, and we're like, so does that mean that any beer that's named after a noun, does that mean that we should assume that thing is
in it?
Like, which doesn't seem to make sense.
So, like, if you had a lager called House Hunter, there's either a house or a realtor,
Right.
just like in the beer.
My thought was like Fat Tire, right?
Yeah.
Are you claiming
I mean,
there's rubber in
right,
the
right.
Yeah. Are there tires, specifically fat tires, in this beer?
It just depends on the day you submit it, the agent who reviews it. Sometimes you can just cancel it and submit it again a week. No, we shouldn't admit that, but sometimes they're like, well, if you change the font and put it on a different line, then it's less, of an implication that this is in the beer.
Well, that was for Amanita. We had it. The change was it said Amanita IPA, and they said no, that's not okay. And we said, well, what if we said Amanita and below it is IPA? And they said, okay, that's fine. So.
And to the TTB's credit, I've called them and just one ring, gotten a representative on the phone. She's like, let me pull up your case. Oh yeah, I'm fine with that. I'll approve this right now. Like,
I gotta ask because I just had it last night, but the night before. What was it Lily Pad?
Water Lily.
Water Lily. Yes. Water Lily. Yeah.
So the nice thing about Skygazer is we've known them since we opened. I mean, when they were
we opened.
Yeah, when they were at their previous location. Before they like split up and all that. We were same exact system as them, same timeline, same kind of issues we were running into. So we became like
the same brew system from the same company in Colorado.
Oh, no kidding!
Really?
Made, and we did it at the same time. So we had the same setup, and we were going through the same
issues.
Pains.
Oh, so it helps that you guys would talk to each other.
Yeah, I mean, mostly just Instagram DMing. We became super friendly with them, and still are. I mean, Eric, who kept the space and is now as Transcend. Still text him. Still the same issues with our like shoddy system. we still text each other and ask about them, and then. Taylor and Lauren, who broke off and took Skygazer to 12%, still very friendly with them, and it's one of those things where the nice thing about 12% is people are always coming and going. All the people that work out of there, it's this cool community, and we made a lot of friends there. But them having a relationship prior to even working out of there, now that we both work out of there, it's pretty cool. So we're, they have their watercolors, and we have Lily of the Valley. So what a perfect blend of the names, Water Lily, and we borrowed notes from both of those recipes. A lot of it was, Skygazer. We used their souring culture. We used like a combination of our fruiting base recipe, fruiting process. But we figured like if we're gonna collab, we might as well just get weird with it. So that's where the chocolate. We went like a dessert.
I mean, it's
the chocolate blueberry marshmallow thing.
The way the flavors hit is just so. Because it's one thing to say, we have all this, and sometimes it's easy to pick up some and not others. But you get like bombarded by you hit every
it's a
single.
It's a 3-course meal. You hit the blueberry, the chocolate, and the marshmallow.
And it's just like wow.
But it's fun because when you think of those kettle sours, you think of really fruit forward. So to put some desserty, almost like stout adjuncts in there was. But it worked. I mean, it's pretty polarizing. 1 out of 10 people are like, "This is too weird for me," but it's been largely positive.
I can see because it is a little bit on the sweeter side. Some people don't really like their beers that sweet, and like I had my wife try it. My wife, she likes fruited sours, but she doesn't really drink beer like that, so she can't really pick up on the notes like that. I try to taste. What do you taste? Let me know what you taste. But she doesn't pick up on all the notes, but even for her, it's like stuff like that she kind of enjoys, and she is not a beer person like at all. Like
I still win.
Yeah, you still win, yes. But she's more of a wine drinker. She loves wines, so it's for her the sour beers are a little bit easier buy-in for her because it has a little bit of a wine aspect to it, especially the fruited sours.
Sure.
And that one, it was like, oh yeah, no, this is really really good. And she was actually able to pick up the chocolate, not so much the marshmallow and the blueberry. I was like, all right.
And temperature affects everything. So if you start it cold and take your time sipping it through, take your last sip when it gets to room temperature, you get a pretty big evolution there.
Never. Out of the 4 I had, it never made it. Never made it past room temperature. Nope. I can tell you right now.
Did you get it at Harvest?
If you can't resist.
Yeah, I picked it up at Harvest, yeah.
I'm glad you appreciate it because for us, our philosophy for collaborations, with I guess I can think of one exception, but it's always be as weird and creative as you can. Like it's your chance to. We didn't want to do a collab and just do something normal. Like you can do a collab so that you can do something that
crazy
you would never otherwise do. So this beer was a great example.
Well, thank you guys for having us.
Absolutely.
And we appreciate this very much.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Hell yeah.
We're the guests.
It worked out so easily. Typically, Dane and I are being pulled in 10 different directions, and you guys were like, yeah.
You put a camera up, people are just like, oh, they're busy.
You guys were like the 28th, and we're just like, yeah, actually, that works great. Like, let's do it.
Yeah.
So we really appreciate it.
So make sure you guys come down to New London to Tox Brewing and try a couple.
Yeah, absolutely. Great beer, great spot, great environment, great brewers, great owners. Please come and check them out.
Yeah, and the stuff at 12% too. Ask if you don't get it at your local stores. Ask them to get it.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yep.
You know, we're regularly in Connecticut, New York, and New Jersey, and who knows where else we'll be. But yeah, I mean,
farther as soon as possible. It's good.
So as always,
Drink responsibly, stay wobbly. Come check out Tox. We'll catch you on the next one.
Deuces.